Beep, beep, beep. Hello. Right. Something interesting and different today. I was sent an article from my friend, which is from 2022, and it's a friend of mine who's in Israel, Alex, who was central in the setting up of the Warrior Teacher Program, for which I'm ever grateful. And it's really interesting. It's written by a guy called Adam Milstein, and it was published in July the 4th of 2022. I don't normally do older stuff, but this is interesting because it's from the Jerusalem Post, and therefore takes a particular look at how certain things affect a particular minority. And people talk about conflicts of rights all the time, where the only conflict of rights that exists is the ones that have been caused by the race baiters and the gender crowd. So these conflicts of right, Douglas always said the train got into the station, everybody was fine, and then it just shot off again because these nutters that have been taught by mad university professors and hands, knees and bump to dead teachers have caused real problems. So it's interesting to have come across something which is historical to the extent that it's only a year old, but is interesting to me because it talks about a specific group of people, the Jewish community, as a minority, and also it's an analysis of the diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI, I call it DIE, trends in America and their effect on that particular community. So I thought you might find this interesting. So pull up a chair, it's not overly long. Subscribe, do the usual, Warrior Teacher, blah, blah, blah. I keep saying this. Hit the subscribe button. Let's get those numbers up so I can get more people and listen to my stuff. Oh yeah, it's been a few days since my birthday. Thank you so much, everybody, for the nice comments and everything that came with it. All right? Thank you very much for everything. I can't reply to you all. I wish I could. I can't. Diversity, equity and inclusion officers, policies and programming are being increasingly embraced in American institutions, from government to the corporate workplace. This is particularly true in education, from leading American universities to elite prep schools. Elite prep schools. Yeah, it seems to be happening there more. If you think about it in Britain, there's always problems with private schools, isn't it? I think that's an interesting observation in itself. In fact, he continues, one sampling of leading American universities found DEI staff making up an average of 3.4 positions for every 100 tenured or tenure-track faculty members, and outnumbering by a factor of at least 4 the staff dedicated to helping students with disabilities. That's an extremely interesting comment to me because I've said before, the only kind of positive discrimination, it's not positive discrimination, it's allowing people to have equality of opportunity that we should be focusing on is disability. Everybody else can just get on with it, right? We don't focus on disability enough, by a long chalk. Why? Because it's difficult. Because it requires us to actually do something rather than wibble and wear a lanyard or hold a balloon or espouse on Twitter or any other social media what a good and virtuous person we are, which exposes us as the narcissistic, compassionate twats we are. But, so that's an extraordinary figure, 3.4 in 100. So that's 1.1 people to manage 33 people in case they get out of line. Right, so that's an extraordinary figure. Think about that for a moment. One person to manage 33 people in case they get out of line. Right, that's worrying. Right, and businesses, as I've said previously, could do well to get rid of this nonsense. But this particular article is looking at the Jewish community, so let's continue. The ostensible goals of DEI are positive, to promote the representation, participation and fair treatment of historically marginalised groups. In practice, though, DEI, which is closely linked to critical race theory, has been deployed to advance a radical agenda that undermines fundamental American values by promoting equality of outcome, equity over equality of opportunity, collective identity, race, gender, etc., and sex and sexual orientation over individual character, censorship of opposing viewpoints over freedom of speech, and a victim culture that crudely bifurcates society into oppressors and oppressed. What a great paragraph. Links in the Dubras, as usual, right? Along with embracing other favoured radical causes, DEI is also being weaponised against Jewish students, maliciously portraying them and the Jewish state as wanton oppressors. Thus, with the expanding number and power of amply funded and staffed DEI offices that, rather than thwarting the rise of anti-Israeli sentiment and restraining hostility towards Jews, actually contributing to it. American universities are becoming hotbeds of anti-Semitism. The rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses is continuing, and that has already been well documented. A 2021 survey by Hillel and the ADL found that 1 in 3 Jewish college students personally experienced anti-Semitic hate in the previous academic year. Jewish students regularly have to contend with the demonization of Israel and its supporters, obscene Holocaust comparisons, we've seen that 100 times, haven't we? And minimization, negative stereotyping, and other common anti-Semitic tropes. We've seen the Holocaust thing is, they're always doing it. They're always using the Holocaust to shore up their ridiculous arguments, these critical social justice swine. According to a December 2021 Heritage Foundation report, Inclusion Delusion, the anti-Semitism of diversity, equity and inclusion staff at universities, which analysed the Twitter feeds of hundreds of DEI university personnel, there is a disproportionate hostility towards Israel among university DEI staff. We've seen some lunatic stuff around this. Do you remember that photo of the ridiculous kids gays for Palestine? It's like, who's going to tell them? You know, I'm not saying I'm one way or t'other. I'm saying that this is an interesting piece coming from a perspective we do not very often hear about, and coming from Israel. So I think it's an interesting piece to listen to and try to understand what's going on. They said in this analysis there is a disproportionate hostility towards Israel among university DEI staff. Malicious charges they have levelled against Israel on Twitter include describing the Jewish state as an apartheid or colonial state and accusing Israel of engaging in genocide or ethnic cleansing. Instead of creating a welcome and inclusive environment for Jewish students who overwhelmingly feel a strong connection to Israel, DEI officials are engaged in anti-Israel demonization that promotes anti-Semitism and legitimizes Jewish hatred on campus. Critical social justice, right? This is what it's all about, folks. That's what it's about. Power, oppression narratives, mentioned at the beginning of this in this rather good paragraph. That's what they care about, power and oppression narratives. They don't care about anything else. And when you talk to these people, they start doing that. Just say no. I'm not doing your power and oppression narratives. I don't believe in your worldview. Start again. Right? They don't like it then. They don't like it when you don't want to discuss it, because that's where they get the arguments from. There's always power and oppression in every interaction. Every interaction, without fail. Every. It's always there. You just have to look for it. That's their mantra. Right? They're very dangerous. In one particular egregious illustration of this phenomenon, Yasmin Mashiach, a University of Southern California student senator for diversity, equity and inclusion, tweeted in May 21 that she wanted to kill every mother Zionist. You can have the next bit, the last bit. Despite this and other hateful messages in which she expressed support for terrorism and the murder of Israelis, she has not been disciplined by USC and was able to retain her student senator DEI position. So we're seeing this in America, this kind of extremism taking place. The harm that DEI programming and personnel cause Jewish students isn't limited to higher education. It even extends to school children. A Jewish parent, Jerome Eisenberg, is suing the prestigious private K-12 Brentwood School in Los Angeles for engaging in a DEI-driven scheme to transform the school under a racially divisive anti-Semitic ideology that seeks to indoctrinate children to reject Western values. That's exactly what they're doing. Exactly what they're doing. You know, agree or disagree about the politics of Israel and Palestine. This is what we're seeing happening everywhere, right? This doesn't discriminate politically because it's culture and it's upstream of politics. In recent years, the curriculum at Brentwood has taken a radical racially divisive turn after it was handed over to its Office of Equity and Inclusion, whose staffing had increased tenfold in a short period of time. According to Eisenberg, the school held racially segregated meetings. See? And encouraged students to treat Jewish people as oppressors and discriminated against a Jewish group of parents. When he expressed his concerns about anti-Semitic discrimination, the school threatened to expel his 8th grade daughter immediately, and ultimately effectively did so when they denied her from returning the following school year. It is deeply troubling that DEI personnel and programming, which is ostensibly committed to combating bias and hate, it's not. You know, I know you're saying it is in 2022. They're not. Stop thinking they are. They're not. Is actively contributing to anti-Semitism in the American education system. As I have repeatedly warned, though, anti-Semitism is not just a Jewish problem, it is an American problem. DEI policies may disproportionately target and harm Jewish students, but the DEI agenda ultimately seeks to undermine and replace fundamental American values and replace it with its own radical vision. I would add it's actually fundamental Western values, the Enlightenment. They want to get rid of the Enlightenment. They want to end the Enlightenment and bring on what I call the bewilderment. Right? So they want to end reality. So they want to end, there are two sexes. They want to end that, people should be colourblind. They want to end all that. So you understand that critical social justice is a revolutionary movement to bring about the fall of the West. That's what it is. Critical social justice. And they're teaching it in your schools. In the UK, in America, in Israel, wherever you are, they are teaching your kids to do this. They are teaching your kids to do this. As we've seen before, what starts with elites quickly spreads to society as a whole. We must combat these ethically corrupted DEI efforts before they do more harm to Jewish students than ultimately all Americans. It then gives details of how to contact the writer of the particular article. I wanted to read it to you because I thought it was important for us to get a different perspective, because we must see from all perspectives what is going on. The truth of the matter is, it is important that we see from perspectives from people who have a different view or a different belief system to us. But it doesn't alter the central tenet of these people, which is the destruction of the Western way of life. That's what critical social justice is all about. And we don't want to accept that fact, but it is. And right now we can't get anybody to say, yeah, this lot need to screw off. The power and oppression narrative games being played by politicians will damage us irreparably. And right now, if I was to do an assessment of where we are in the UK, I am not even sure that young people have a future. Go mull on that. See you later.